You are watching
Trinity Episcopal School Production Network. TESPN.
Welcome to this week's TESPN Podcast. We are so excited to be joined by Trevor Taylor, Trinity class of 2017, and one of the strength and conditioning and track coaches, and Cooper Gardiner, class of 2024, and the recent record breaker in the shot put for the school record. And whose record did he break? His own coach, Trevor Taylor. So really cool story. The previous record holder, the new record holder. And for me personally, I taught both these guys, so it's really neat to watch that next generation of Trinity athlete smashing records. So Trevor, just starting with you, you've worked with Cooper for a while now. What are some of the characteristics that have led Cooper to improve to where he's now the new shot put record holder on the school record board?
Just a willingness to put his nose to the grindstone and just constantly work at a sport that is not fulfilling to a lot of people, to 99% of the population. You're throwing a heavy metal cannonball as far as you can and standing around for an hour. Like to most people, that is a boring sport, and it is if you don't feel the competitive nature of it. And that's what he has. He has a competitive nature, and he wants to work. He wants to always work and always be the best at what he's doing.
And Cooper, for you, with Coach Taylor and his insights and just his tactics, advice, whatever it may be, what are some things about his style that have really resonated with you that's allowed you to be the best athlete that you can?
Well, I think he's really patient, not only with just me, but with all the throwers. And I think that translates well, especially in a sport like shot put where technique is king. And yeah, I think that's really important to developing and just getting a lot better, is being patient and kind of taking it step by step, especially when you're new.
I have to ask both of y'all, you just said it's a sport that takes a lot of time and it is time consuming. It's not always the most active. What made you think to do shot put?
Well, for me, I first tried out shot put in middle school for a middle school team, and I did not make the team. I didn't really have a heavy interest for it back then, but I just wanted to give some new a shot. When I got to high school here at Trinity, I wanted to try it in ninth grade, but that was our COVID season, and football was in the spring, and things kind of overlapped. So my sophomore year, I was like, I'll try it in the winter for indoor track. Started off really slow. I was like, this is kind of dumb at first because I was kind of progressing really slow. But once I started to get the hang of it, it got really fun. I just loved it from there. So
I had done outdoor track through middle school, and when I got here, I was a wrestler in the winter seasons. So up until Gobble, the old AD, left, I was a wrestler. And then I hurt my neck in football. He left, so I stopped wrestling and thought I was going to have an off season. We brought in a coach. My coach was Alan Bayek, who's throwers coach and football coach at Manchester. We had him in a few days a week, and he sparked more of an interest in the sport for me, just the way he coached, and I try to embody that. And that's what brought me into winter track on top of spring track.
So Trevor, I have to ask you, I've talked to people before who had a record, whether it's a points record in basketball or yards as for a quarterback throwing in a career or something like that. And a lot of people in that situation say I hope someone comes and breaks my record. That's really cool. And then I've also noticed some other people are like, no, I don't want my record to be broken. Like, I want to keep that record. How did you feel about that? Like, were you rooting for him to break it, or is there a small part of you that didn't want to see your name come off that board?
As a coach, you want everybody in your circle to break a record. And it just so happens that it's my record that is breaking. I believe records are meant to be broken because it shows a progression just in generational talents and generational abilities. And that's why I don't feel there's no resentment. I can't think of a better word for it, but resentment or a bittersweet emotion for it. There is none. I'm really happy that he's able to do it.
That's really cool. And then Cooper, for you, knowing that you were being coached, pretty much on a daily basis by the current record holder, was that added motivation?
For me, I think so. Definitely some added motivation. But there's definitely, I think, trust when I know that I'm being coached by someone who has the experience. And yeah, it kind of gives me that, it kind of sets the bar, and yeah, it definitely pushes me to try to beat it.
And Trevor, for you being the former record holder, and obviously you did training, as you said, from the previous coaches, did those trainings that you learned in the past rub off on Cooper, those same techniques?
I would say that's what a lot of my coaching style is from Alan Bay. I mean, he taught me everything, all the intricacies of throwing. Because again, on the outside is throwing a metal cannonball as far as you can and walking out of a circle, and that's all people really see. But it's not. There's so many small, intricate details. Where your feet are, where your balance is, 1 inch to the left, boom, it's out of sector. 1 foot is wrong placement, you're throwing 6 feet under what you normally throw. And that's what I try to convey in my coaching style from Bay.
This question actually just occurred to me, but you all are obviously both very strong guys, and Trevor, you do a lot of strength work, and help out Coach Manworth in the weight room. So of course, to throw that metal cannonball far, you have to be strong. But do you all ever see like people who are strong and they're like, oh, I can throw this really far, and they try, but if their technique is poor, they can't? Is that like a big thing in the throwing events?
Sure. Yes, I think that's one of the biggest things I see. Like I said before, technique is king, the shot put, strength is second. And when you have both of those together, you're really great. If you and you can see that with kind of recent and past visa throwers. Example, Rodney Laura from Woodbury, who's at UNC now. But then if you just have strength, you can usually tell because their technique is usually just awful. They can still sometimes just get it out there just off of pure strength, but once you get that technique down, you can be not that strong at all and still throw it as far as that person is in the technique.
To piggyback off that last part that he's talking about, I talk about it all the time. People that would beat me are usually built like Cooper or bigger. At a certain point, you hit that threshold of technique to strength, and it's kind of over.
So like a smaller dude like myself, like you could coach me up to get to like a certain level, but at the end of the day, if a stronger person has the perfect technique and a smaller person has the perfect technique, the stronger person will usually throw it farther.
Absolutely, yeah.
Makes sense.
On the topic of strength and technique, I know both of y'all both said, we can see by your amazing sweatshirt, and you said that you did wrestle and play football here. Do you think those sports helped you be successful in shot put?
Just the reliance on strength in those, yes, they tend to, whether it's purposeful or not, lead into those kind of strength-based sports. Football, obviously, especially if you're a lineman or a linebacker, you are hitting somebody every single play, and you need that strength. In wrestling, you're always tied up with somebody, full-fledged head bangs, smacking heads, holding somebody down. Those lead to being able to brace your core for stability and to explode better when you're throwing the shot.
Yeah, for me, for football, I'll break it down to kind of like what position I play. I'm an offensive lineman, and one of the biggest things about being an offensive lineman is leverage, and that's one of the biggest things in shot put too. So I think those two aspects, from football to shot put, for football it translates really well to shot put, and I think that's where I see it the most.
All right, Cooper. So still got the rest of this winter season and a spring season, so perhaps you have even more records to break, or including breaking your own. Actually, I was going to ask you something about football, but before I do, what are your goals going forward with throws? Because you told us a while back, like I think on Media Day, you said you wanted to break his record, which you've done that, and you still got a good month of the indoor season plus the whole spring. So what's the next goal?
I think for For right now, for indoor shots, definitely just to break my own record now and just increase where I'm at. For spring though, definitely my top 2 goals are beat the outdoor shot record and discus record. I know the outdoor shot record's a couple feet higher than where I'm at right now, so I got some work to do, but that's why it's a goal.
Is that your record as well?
Yes.
Oh, beautiful.
I progressed.
Let's go. Oh my gosh, I love it. That's great motivation. But yeah, I did want to ask you about football. So I heard that you've committed, but I don't want to like say something if you don't want me to say it.
Oh no.
It's out there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you recently committed to the Naval Academy, correct? First of all, congratulations. That is such an honor, and what a credit to you as a student athlete. That's just wonderful, wonderful. So happy for you. But I was curious, when you get there, is there any chance you'll still do some throwing?
I think there could be possibly. I know that there's a lot of college linemen that do both. It's difficult, but it can definitely be done for at least outdoor season. You got football in the fall, and then you go and throw shot put in the spring. So I definitely consider it. But
You know what else I just realized? Because we've got a couple alums at the Naval Academy right now playing football with Drew Duhart and Trey Ferguson. Those guys are little guys that play on the outside, but you got to be excited for all the run blocking that you're going to get to do, presumably the way that Navy plays. Like, that has got to be like a horse going to the trough. How excited are you for that?
I'm so excited. Every offensive lineman loves running the ball. Every offensive lineman thinks run before pass. So being able to go to a school that's run heavy like Navy, it's really fun. Really excited.
It's great.
And kind of bring it back to high school for a minute. What are your goals that you want to leave Trinity with? Future athletes here, what do you want to leave at Trinity to make your mark? As Trevor did with leaving his records, what do you want to leave?
Well, definitely the records. And going into terms of football side, there's 2 banners on the gym wall, the state championship. I think that's something I want to leave for the future generations of football, knowing that, you can do 2 sports and excel really good at them here, and the proof's in the pudding, pretty much.
Yeah, and for people watching this who may not know, Trevor also won 2 football state championships as well in 14 and 15, and really was a cornerstone player on taking this football program to the level it's gotten to, and on the coaching side as well. But I mean, I've seen pretty much every Trinity home football game since we brought football back in 2004, as well as a huge percentage of the away games. And you're talking right here to one of the best linemen we've ever had, and one of the best linebackers and best tacklers we've ever had as well. So we're here talking about throwing, but these guys were absolute studs on the football field. And as far as that goes, you already talked about how the leverage and the strength from football translates somewhat into throwing, but just the mindset, especially as a lineman, as a linebacker, those are physical positions where each and every play you are running into somebody. When you're throwing, it's just you and that metal cannonball. I'm just curious, Trevor, I'll ask you first, as the coach and previous record holder, like, how different is that when you run out of a locker room knowing I'm going to be smacking into a guy my size or bigger for the next 2.5 hours versus I just got to concentrate, throw this ball, and then like, how does your mindset differ running out of the tunnel for football versus a track meet? When I imagine even when you're throwing, there's other events going on all over.
It can be a culture shock if it's your first time doing it. But my favorite sports as I've grown up, as I've gotten a little older, are wrestling and things that are like 1v1, you versus you or you versus one other person. Team sports are great. I still watch football. I still love football. But wrestling, MMA, track stuff, like it's you versus you at that point. There's really no one else you can blame in the moment if something goes wrong. And I do love that mentality of it. In football, you have that too. You have gap responsibilities as a linebacker. As a lineman, you have this guy or this guy depending on your zone or man scheme. Won't get fully into that, obviously. But I love the mental battles, and that is throwing. That's what I mean by it can be boring. And once you get to the point where you want to be good, it can be so frustrating when you are not progressing because it's you versus you. It truly is 1 inch is all it takes to change you throwing the record or you throwing 4 feet underneath what you even average. And I love that. I love that.
Right. So in football, if Taken gets sacked, Cooper could be like, "Hey, Brady didn't do his job. That wasn't on me." Or when you played, if they ran for a 50-yard touchdown, you could say like, "Oh, my safety didn't come up." But like when it's throwing,
there's nobody else.
Nobody else but you. You have any more questions, Isabel?
I guess we'll end it out with, Cooper, you kind of answered it. What's your advice for the future Trinity athletes by saying that you can do 2 sports and be a 2-seasons for athlete? Trevor, what is your advice? Obviously, now you're teaching the future Trinity and you're coaching along the way. But both y'all, what is the biggest thing? Obviously, in the classroom, outside the classroom. How does that help you here at Trinity?
I have not to go fully into it, don't early specialize in any one thing in life because things can go wrong or things can happen that change how you view life. And if you specialize in one thing and something happens, you can get stuck or you can feel stuck. At Trinity, you have the ability to do 3 sports every single season that we have and to explore different opportunities. And that's kind of what led me in life. It's just being able to do 3 different things and be with 3 different teams at one time usually and just expand my understanding.
And one thing I think that gets underrated when you play on multiple teams is having different sets of teammates,
Right.
which is so cool because you learn so much from your teammates and also different coaches and different coaching methods, but even just the social aspect. Like I imagine, your football teammates for both of you versus or not the same population as your track and field teammates. I mean, there may be some overlap, but it's a lot of different people,
Yes.
and that you can learn from anybody. And that's one of my biggest things as an educator is you can learn from anybody. You can learn from teachers, but a senior can learn from a 9th grader, and that's really cool. All right, we have a small audience here. Anybody in the crowd have a question for these guys? Nope, you don't have to, but okay, no. All right, just wanted to throw that out there since we're doing this live. All right, let's end with a little bit of a lightning round. Before we do, I apologize at the beginning. I did not introduce my co-host here, Isabella Jenkins, 10th grader, asked some wonderful questions. So great job, Isabella. Thank you. But yeah, let's end with a lightning round. Who do you athletically look up to the most?
Right now, probably Quentin Nelson, left guard for the Colts.
You threw that one on me. Wasn't ready for that.
Well, it's a lightning round, Trevor.
Jordan Burroughs for wrestling, though multi-time gold medalist in a lot of wrestling, and he's going into basically his twilight years in the sport, and he's still killing it.
All right, you can take this question any number of different ways, but who would you say is your toughest opponent? Trevor, why don't we start with you?
Myself. The mind can play tricks on you in some of the hardest times of your life, and you just got to battle through those. It's what a lot of us do.
I'll probably take this a little, talk about one football player.
You want to say his name?
Yeah, I already talked about him before, but probably Ronnie Laura, who's at UNC now for football, and he did shot put too, but he was definitely really, really good.
All right, speaking of football, who's your favorite NFL team?
Cowboys.
This is going to be funny. The Eagles.
Nice. Rough week for you fellas.
Yeah.
Well, now that they're both out, and at least as a Washington fan, I don't have to live with seeing one of those teams hoist the Lombardi Trophy. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?
Ravens.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say Ravens.
How about you, Isabel?
I'd probably spell more. I think Lamar has a good chance in the end.
What's your favorite pregame like meal or snack or pre-meet, I guess, for track?
Waffle House for me is a lot.
It was always McDonald's with my dad when we were coaching, and when I was playing here. It was always we would meet at McDonald's right up the road.
Yeah, gotta get that good
Yeah.
healthy
Exactly.
pregame.
That's all you
maybe
need.
your record would have been higher if you didn't have all of
Probably.
that McDonald's. Maybe
Probably.
Coop wouldn't have broken it yet. All right, and then finally, let's end on just a fun one. If you could get all the money was no object, you could live anywhere in the world, where would you want to live?
I'd probably stay in the United States and move to like Montana or something out west, a lot of land.
I don't have a specific place, but it'd be mountain, some kind of mountain region so you can be alone for most of the day.
I was kidding. I actually have one more question for you, Coop, because I always like to ask this when we have someone on who's a twin. And I may have even asked you this last year when you came and talked to us for football. But what is the best part of having a twin, and what is the worst part of having a twin? Of course, if people don't know, you have a twin sister, Julia, who's a great diver. Best part about having a twin?
The best part, I think just the fact that we're twins makes us closer than, I guess, other siblings, just knowing that you're a twin. Worst part is that I mean, I don't know if it's about twins specifically, or just sisters in general, is that she's just really nosy.
Fair enough. I mean, that a lot of high schoolers are, I would say, so it happens. This was a lot of fun. You guys are awesome. I want to thank our executive producer, Carter Tyree. He's the person that came up with the idea, which was a great idea, to have the new shot put indoor record holder alongside his coach and the former record holder. So once again, Trevor Taylor, class of 2017, Cooper Gardiner, class of 2024, Isabella Jenkins, class of 2026. I'm Rick Hamlin. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.